Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be talking about my 2026 writing goals and what went well in 2025. Hello everyone, how are you? How is it going? I am happy to see you here today in the first video of 2026. How exciting. So today I don't think it will be a long one. It might be a chatty one, so we'll see how talkative I am. But today I want to talk about my goals for 2026 and do a little bit of a recap on 2025, focusing mostly on writing, but I will talk a little bit about personal stuff as well, because I think when you're a writer, it consumes and fills so much of your life that all of the other areas of your life impact it. So your health, your fitness, your happiness levels, stuff like that. So yeah, I'll talk mostly about writing, but probably a bit about my goals for the rest of my life as well. In case you're new here, my name is Lily and I make videos all about writing here on YouTube. And I've also started a new podcast called the Writing and Magic Podcast. So I'll put like a little card somewhere in the sky here where you can find out more information about that. But I'm very happy to have you here. So I guess it makes sense to first talk about 2025 and all that went well and I guess not so well in that year. So just to give like a brief overview of all that happened in 2025, I basically just solely worked on Slayer Bride, which is my Project Vampire is what I also call it. It's my vampire romantasy book. And I worked on that throughout the entire year. So in January, I was working on the outline. I was still doing some I guess character work, which was continuing on from 2024, which is the year I decided to dive deep into the project again after taking a little break. So at the beginning of 2025, I was just plotting, brainstorming, outline, creating the plot for draft 3, which is what I ended up writing. So I started drafting in April. And I finally finished my draft in November. And since then, I've taken a little bit of a break from writing. So today is January 2nd. I believe it was November 20th-ish when I finished draft 3, got it bound and printed. And I've just allowed myself to have my yearly Christmas break. I very rarely do work over December. I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that I used to do the November writing challenge, NaNoWriMo, back in the day. So December was a natural kind of break after writing like crazy in November. And I had a similar sort of feeling this time around, finishing, this book in November and just feeling a little bit, not burnt out, but just needing some distance from it after spending so much time working on that book and just being deeply immersed in that book. I needed to remember who I was outside of it, outside of Slayer Bride. So yeah, I took a break and that is pretty much all of 2025. So overall, I wrote just under 100,000 words, which I'm happy with because that was just the entire length of my manuscript. But I guess this year I would like to up that ever so slightly. I mean, we'll talk about my goals for 2026 in a second. But I would say that overall 2025 was a successful year. I think anything that didn't go well was mostly down to circumstances that were kind of out of my control. I was grieving quite a lot this year for 3 different people. Well, one of them was a dog. One was a dog, but that one did hit me hard too. So because of that, my productivity was really slowed down. And whilst writing was a happy escape, it didn't change the fact that I was just a bit depleted in energy and just feeling very low. I also left my job in September without another one lined up, which was my choice. I did choose to do that. But without going into too much detail about that, I was on the job hunt for about a month straight, and that was a very intense, very stressful time. I was able to get another job around the time that I was planning on actually finishing Slayer Bride. But then obviously I got swept up in the whole, starting a new career thing. And yeah, life stuff happens, and that got in the way of my writing productivity a bit. Some of you may know that I originally planned to finish my book on October 15th, which was the end of 75 Hard Writing Challenge, which I did, and I did technically fail. I'll put them on the screen somewhere of the daily tasks I wanted to do throughout the 75 days. I did all of them more than I would have otherwise. So I didn't do them every day. I didn't meditate every day. I didn't, I did actually do my affirmations every day. That was the one thing I did every day somehow. I don't know why. I just like affirmations a lot. So that was really easy, I guess, habit to stick to. But for the most part, I did not stick to my daily habits every day. And I did not finish my book by the end, which was the main big goal I was trying to stick to. And I think I'm okay with it. I'm going to do video reflecting on my experience of doing 75 hard. I would be open, well, I'll talk a bit about this in a second, but I would be open to trying it again in 2026. I feel like I just waffled a load of nonsense just then. But yeah, overall, the year went well. And I'm hoping 2026 will be a slightly calmer year in terms of like life events. And therefore, I'll be able to be a bit more productive with my writing career. So, moving on to 2026, these are the main goals that I want to meet. So, firstly, I really want to read through my bound manuscript of Slayer Bride. I'm hoping to do this in the first couple months. Pretty much my winter writing goals is literally just to read through this manuscript, make marks on it, write a pen. At the end, I want to compile my notes into one document, just going over all the things I want to improve. And then I'll use all those notes, all of my little jottings down to create a new outline of my book for draft 4, which takes me on to my second writing goal for 2026, which is to complete draft 4 of Slayer Bride. I think this will be a bit longer than draft 3 because I've got some ideas for how I want to expand Act 3 of the book. So I'm thinking that instead of being just under 100,000 words, this book will be about 120. In terms of timings, I'm hoping to have my outline finished by the end of March at the absolute latest. And then April onwards, I will be drafting. I'm hoping being the key word, that because draft 3 is in a much better shape than my previous drafts, I won't be writing for as long as I have been in the past. So for example, draft 3, this took me like a good, I think 6 months to write. I'm hoping draft 4 won't take me that long. I'm thinking maybe like 3-4 months instead. That would be really nice. So my ambitious goal, I suppose, would be to get it done by the end of June. Being realistic, I'm gonna say mid-August. We'll see how realistic that goal actually was when I do my recap at the end of this year. But I'm thinking end of August for draft 4. Then I want to do something new and exciting that I've never done before, which is to work with beta readers. I've beta read for other people, but I've never had someone beta read my work because I've never had a book that's like reached a state of completion that I'm happy enough with to give to someone else without cringing. When I'm drafting in the early stages, I do not care about the writing style. Like if any of you've ever read like bits of my work in writing vlogs, you'll see that it's not great. My writing style is not great. It's very childlike and amateur-esque. So I've always kind of said to myself that I'll wait until I've done my line edits to give my book to beta readers. And whilst I don't think draft 4 is going to be like a thorough line edit, I just want to get it to a point where I'm not going to cringe too hard knowing that people are reading it. So fingers crossed, once draft 4 is complete, I can work with beta readers for the first time. That would be absolutely amazing. But if I just don't feel like my book is at that stage, so let's say I can see loads of problems with it that I don't need someone else to point out for me, then I will move on to draft 5 without beta reader feedback. So I have no clue how long working with beta readers takes. I'm gonna say 2 months. I feel like that's probably like less than what it actually is, because I know a lot of people, like when they give their work to beta readers, it's like close friends. I don't have anyone I know who will beta read my book. So once I finish draft 4, a lot of that time will be me going out and sourcing people. I don't know. I don't know how long beta reading takes. Give me some information in the comments below if you have done it yourself. So I'm going to say 2 months for, giving my book out to beta readers, doing manuscript exchanges, getting feedback. I think that's fair enough. So that will take me from mid-August to, I believe, mid-October. Yes, mid-October. This is when I want to start working on draft 5. So this is where my outline for the year is getting a bit blurry. So I guess at some point in between mid-August and mid-October, I'm going to be gathering feedback and creating sort of an edit letter that I've written to myself based on other people's opinions on my book. And then I don't know how thorough the edits I'm going to need to make will be. So I'm not too sure if I'll need to completely re-outline or the extent to which I will need to re-outline. So yeah, I'm not too sure what the timings are going to be for this one. Whereas with draft 4, I've got a pretty decent idea of how much work is going to need to go into rewriting my book / editing my book. But yeah, with draft 5, I'm not too sure what to expect timings wise. Regardless, I think it's ambitious for me to say that draft 5 will be finished by the end of 2026. It's probably something So it's probably a project I'll be taking forward into 2027. And then early 2027 is when I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to submit to literary agents. If I can move faster this year, maybe this is a year that I can consider sending out a few emails, but I just don't think that's going to happen. But it's nice to dream. So, yeah, in a nutshell, those are my goals for 2026. And I think I can do them. I think also I'm at a point where I've really got a fire lit under me and I really can just see that the end is in sight with this book. So, because of that, I do think I am going to be moving a lot faster than usual because I'm going to have more energy, more inspiration, more motivation. I really just want to get to the stage where I can query. That is just like a dream I've had forever. And I think that is going to be my new sort of like goalpost that I'm running towards. Beforehand, it was this. It was having my beautiful bound manuscript. That was something that was on my vision board for years and years and years. And now I actually think that maybe some images related to, sending out query tracker images are gonna go on my vision board instead. On that note, actually, another goal I have for this year, and I want to do this in the next couple of weeks, is to write a draft email to literary agents about my book. I'm sure a lot of people don't advise doing this until you get to the stage where you're actually ready to query, but I just want to get something down on the page just so that when the time comes, I have something pre-written to work with so I can move like a little bit faster rather than getting to the stage where I'm ready to query and then just like staring at another blank page again and not knowing what to write. I think just having something I can edit would be a lot easier and maybe make my query better in the long run, even if I'm not querying for like another 18 months. I think also writing a pitch for my book will help me to focus on what the core of my story is. I don't know if that's making sense. This is going to sound really messy the way I'm describing this, but if you think about like reader expectations going into a book, if you pick up a vampire romance novel, you're going to expect there to be certain elements to the story and certain things are going to happen in the story. And it's going to have like a certain atmosphere and vibe. And I think writing my letter to a literary agent and how I sell it is going to make me realize whether or not the way I'm pitching the book actually matches up with what my book is and what my book delivers. Like, does my book meet the expectations of any future potential literary agents? I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's going to help me moving into outlining draft 4, just to make sure that my book is like, meeting reader expectations. Moving on to my life in general and what I want to achieve this year in other areas of my life, this is going to be a very like health focused year. My word for the year, by the way, is maturity. I am 24, about to turn 25, and I feel like I'm ready to come into my true adult self. Whatever that means, that's what I'm ready to become. I'm ready to become grown up Lily, who low-key looks like a 15-year-old, but that's fine. So I'll talk about health first, since that was an example that I gave. So I'm currently, in case you can't tell, in my workout gear. After this video, I was originally going to go on a run, but somehow it snowed overnight. And I went just to shops to get some groceries and I literally could not walk without like almost falling over. So unfortunately, I will not be going on my run, which is very sad, but I will be doing a workout video of sorts. So I really want to get more, what I'm trying to say is I really want to get more into my physical fitness this year. A more specific goal I have is to do a 10K, but every single day I want to do some form of movement, even if it's just like 5 minutes of relaxing yoga before bed, going on a walk. It doesn't have to be like big and intense. However, I would like to, work towards those big fitness goals like running the 10K, which is something that I've never done before. I've only ran 5Ks. So yeah, this is the year that I want to get like more into long distance running. As some of you may know, I've also taken up adult ballet. So I also want to go to at least 3 ballet classes a month. Actually, I'm going to lower that to 2 or 3 because I think based on previous experience, I've gone to like 1 a month. So I think 2 might be more of a realistic goal. So 2 or 3 classes a month for ballet. I really want to get those point shoes. I want to work on my core strength and get some point shoes. Not this year, that's too ambitious, but in the next couple of years, I think that's a fun goal I could be moving towards. And when I'm not going to ballet class, I do want to be doing exercise and workout videos that are really focused on the strength you need for ballet. So like really working on my core strength, for example, increasing my flexibility. Actually, talking about flexibility, a goal I want to do this year is I want to do the splits for the first time. I've never done that before. I've tried the 30-day split challenge a few times, but I just can't get into the habit of doing it every single day. So I think I'm going to try and gradually just work on my flexibility, and hopefully one day, fingers crossed this year, I'll be able to do splits on the floor. That would be so exciting. Also related to health is I just want to take more control over what I'm eating. I'm one of those people where like every day I'll just buy like a meal deal for lunch. So I'll be eating like a crappy sandwich that's like not full of anything that's actually like good for me. So I just want to like make more home cooked meals. I also want to control my spending when it comes to food because I tend to go to the grocery store when I'm craving something, which means that I eat something very different every single night. And because I'm only cooking for myself, that's very expensive and leads to a lot of food waste. So I'm going to start meal prepping at the beginning of every single week and just make sure that I'm not overspending and the food I eat is actually nutritious rather than just, crap from the shop. Because what I mostly crave is crap from the shop. I've spoken about finances a little bit, but moving on to the next portion of the video, not very exciting, but I do want to work towards buying a house one day. So if I can put like a decent amount of money into savings, maybe like 20% of my monthly wage, that would be incredible. It's really hard to balance like saving for the future and also spending on nice, lovely experiences that you might not be able to have when you're older, like traveling. At least my family have always said that, they saved when they were younger because they wanted to travel in the future, but then they never actually traveled in the future. So they wish they did it when they were younger. So what I'm trying to say is that I would like to put money towards buying a house one day. I've got a figure in mind that is a bit ambitious, but I'm going to try. But at the end of the day, if there are opportunities to do fun, cool things that might not come again in the next few years, I am going to do that because I'm sure at some point one day I will own a house and I might be wishing that I did more traveling and more crazy fun stuff in my 20s. So I don't know what I just said. 20% of my salary is the goal for my savings account. We'll see if I actually do that. My last section for this video is just personal development. I guess the main thing I really want to work on is just like regulating my nervous system, which I know is a phrase that everyone keeps mentioning and talking about. For me specifically, I think regulating my anxious attachment could be really good. So I don't know if you guys have learnt about the attachment theory or not, but if you do, I identify as like more anxiously attached. I guess I'm technically a fearful avoidant, but leaning slightly towards the anxious side in romantic relationships and more avoidant in my friendships. So I do want to focus on kind of like healing that a bit this year. I have focused on it a bit towards the end of the year, but I just want to continue just being mindful about my thoughts and how my thoughts are influencing the way that I feel, and making sure that whenever I'm having a negative thought that I kind of like correct it with something more positive or rational, as opposed to something crazy, irrational, that's freaking me out and making me feel anxious and is negatively impacting my relationships with people around me. I do also want to continue with my meditating. So I'm not going to give myself like a numerical goal for this. I just want to meditate more. So right now I'm probably meditating like once every 2 weeks, which isn't that great. But if I do it maybe like a couple times a week, I'll be happy. And lastly, I really want to focus on reading. So the number I've got in my head is 15 books. So a little bit over 1 book per month. Since I'm still slowly getting out of my reading slump and still building up reading as a habit, I'm not going to like control the genres I'm reading. One fun thing I've noticed is that I am naturally craving like classics and sort of like literary fiction a bit more than I used to. I don't know if that's just because I'm getting slightly older, but yeah, I'm not exclusively craving trashy romance novels anymore, which is fun. Not that there's anything wrong with reading trashy romance novels. That's what I write, so obviously I love those. I do try to read at least one classic every single year, which I think as I read more and more, maybe I can bump that number up to 2. I think this year I'm going to finally read Pride and Prejudice. I think that's a pretty like easy classic to read, so that shouldn't be too difficult. I'm also interested in reading The Hunchback of Notre Dame, but I don't know if that's an easy read. So we'll see if I get to that. I don't want to accidentally put myself in a reading slump by reading something that's just a bit crazy. But I think that is everything. I have been filming for 30 minutes. I did not expect myself to film for 30 minutes. I'm surprised I had that much to say, honestly. I thought this was going to be like a 5-minute video, so go me, I guess. But thank you so much for listening. I forgot to mention YouTube. What are my YouTube goals? I've already ended the video pretty much, so I'll be very quick. I'm thinking of doing about 25 videos this year. I'm not that great at uploading every single week, and I don't want to force myself to, because whenever I force myself to upload once a week in the past, I'll do it for like a couple weeks and then I'll just like give up and then disappear for months on end. So yeah, I think 25 videos a year is pretty doable, like roughly 2 a month. I can do 2 a month. And hopefully, one of his videos every month will be a podcast episode, which is focused more on like chatty stuff like this or writing advice as opposed to my vlogs. But as I already said, that is all I have to say today. Thank you so much for listening. Please let me know what your goals are for 2026 and how 2025 went for you. Anyway, thank you so much for listening and have an amazing day. Bye.